name is Marco, and this time I'm gonna talk you about the end of the Second World War. Talking about the New World Order, one of the most recent by a major political figure was made by US President George Bush, who explicitly used the New World Order to refer us to US objectives in a post-Cold War war. The term has a pedigree much older than the Cold War or even both World Wars. In a modern context, it was a British imperialist Cecil Rhodes who first proposed a federal world government to be imposed by the US and the British Empire. USA President Woodrow Wilson was inspired by a similar concept to draw up his plans for a League of Nations in the aftermath of the World War I. Most fascist regimes in the 20s, 30s, and 40s of the 20th century also proposed some of the sort of the New World Order. In fact, most disliked themselves to be a new order. The alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union during World War II developed out of necessity and out of a shared realization that each country needed to the order to defeat one of the most dangerous and destructive forces of the 20th century. Ideological differences were subordinated, albeit temporarily, to the common goal of defeating fascism. Normandy landings were at the landing operation on Tuesday, 6th of June of 1944, termed the D-Day of the Allied invasion of Normandy and Operation Overlord during the World War II. The largest seaborne invasion in history, the operation began to the liberation of the German-occupied northwestern Europe from Nazi control and contributed to the Allied victory on the Western Front. After the successful Allied invasions of the Western France, Germany gathered reserve forces and launched a massive counter-offensive in the Ardennes, which collapsed by January. At the same time, the Soviet forces were closing in from the east, invading Poland and East Prussia. By March, Western Allied forces were crossing the Rhine River, capturing hundreds and thousands of troops from Germany's Army Group B. The Red Army had meanwhile entered Austria, and both fronts quickly approached Berlin. Strategic bombing campaigns by Allied aircraft were pounding German territory, sometimes destroying entire cities in a night, in the first several months of 1945. Germany put up a fierce defense but rapidly lost territory, ran out of supplies, and exhausted its options. In April, Allied forces pushed through the German defensive line in Italy, east, Main west, on the River Elbe on April 25, 1945. When Soviet and American troops met near Tiragu, Germany, then came at the end of the third reach at the Soviet took. Berlin already committed suicide on April 30. Germany surrounded unconditionally on all fronts on May 8. Japan attacked the American Navy base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7, 1945. In response, the United States declared war on Japan. Japan Axis allies, including Nazi Germany, declared war on the United States days after the attack, bringing the United States into World War II. Marked by atrocities such as the executions of torture of American prisoners of war by Imperial Japanese Army and the declaration of the dead Japanese bodies, both sides interned enemy allies. In the Second World War, Japan was occupied by the Allied power, led by the United States with contributions from Australia. The San Francisco Peace Treaty, signed on September 8, 1951, marked the end of the Allied occupation. World War II was a brutal event that killed a lot of people, a lot of innocents like in Pearl Harbor and the atomic bombs in Japan. But it was a really important event because thanks to it, we live like this right now. It changed the world completely. What would happen if Hitler was still alive? So all small events that are englobed in World War II were very important for us to know the world like we know it right now and live how we live right now. So the World War II was one of the most important events in the history of the world. Some important consequences are end of the colonialism and imperialism and the end of the dictatorship in Germany and Italy. Also, the UNO was set up in 1945.